All right, good morning, commissioners. Welcome. Chair Harrington, over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is Chair Catherine Harrington, and joining me this morning are Commissioners Pam Treese, Roy Rogers, Jerry Willey, and Nafisa Fai. The first item on the agenda is board and leadership communication. Why don't we just start by taking care of a letter that we have for our consideration? Ms. Angie, would you like Ms. Doyle to cover this letter for us?
Thank you, Chair. And Clerk Moss has just promoted Ms. Doyle.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Sorry, I missed in the transition of the panel, so I'm thinking you guys need a little bit of just a statement of what this is. The City of Beaverton reached out to see if the county would like to participate as an exempting taxing entity in their expanded and new vertical housing development zones. As the memo lays out, vertical housing development zones are a tool for incentivizing literal vertical development, very cleverly named, where it is of mixed use so that there is some economic component to the building as well as housing on the and goes up multiple stories, thereby increasing density. It is a partial and limited time frame in which the property tax exemption exists. Any taxing district can opt out, to our knowledge, in the research that we were able to do in a limited amount of time. No taxing district has historically opted out of any of the existing Beaverton vertical housing development zone property tax exemption programs. What we're looking for here is direction from the board if you would like to remain in, or if you would like to have staff prepare for next week a resolution stating that you would like to opt out of either the expansions, the new zones, both. So we're looking for direction from the board if you would like to continue participating as an exempting jurisdiction for these expanded and new vertical housing development zones in Beaverton. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, over to you.
I'll comment. The only question I had is why we're getting it so late. But for full disclosure, I've used vertical housing in a building I built, and so I'm well aware of how they work. It's a tax incentive to do mixed use, and they're great mechanisms. I would wholeheartedly support it, but I just wanted to say I have been a beneficiary too. So, for full disclosure.
Commissioner Treese is a thumbs up as well. Commissioner Fai is a thumbs up.
If I could ask one quick question. So the chart there that you have for tax abatement estimates, that shows, 17, 18, 18, 19, I guess it's on page 2 or something. Is that the amount of property tax that we've given up as a county cumulative? Is that what that is?
The question I had asked our taxation and assessment was to estimate how much of foregone revenue the county had gone through in the Beaverton vertical housing development zones as they currently exist. So these are estimates because you don't know how much the difference is because you only calculate the actual property tax. So this is an estimate of how much revenue we would have received on top of the property tax received from the properties had we not participated. So this is the amount of revenue we left on the table by participating.
Right, and I'm just guessing that's cumulative. So by this letter, that continues to grow, that amount?
Presumably, because the tax abatement only goes into effect as properties become certified for occupancy, and then it lasts for 10 years. So as buildings come in, are developed, and receive their certificates of occupancy, they then qualify for the tax exemption. So it adds up as the life of the building goes through and as multiple projects are developed. So with more zones and larger zones, presumably there will be more of this type of development that is incentivized. And so over the course of time, it will increase, but some of the projects will fall off, and then we will receive the full value of that vertical development as property taxes. So it that is it'll grow, but then it'll start to level off as more buildings come fully on the tax rolls again.
Yeah, so it's just going to be a 10-year rolling, and we get to the 11th year and the 17, 18 buildings come back on the property tax revenues.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly support the vertical housing tax abatement and all of this stuff, but at the same time, we need to be cautious of, we got a $30 million hole, and it's projected to be still significant. So the more tax abatements we give, the more we give up and leave on the table. So I like this program and things like that. I just want to be cautious of what we give up.
In rereading my memo this morning, I realized I left out an important detail from the City of Beaverton. They did place these in the majority of these zones into their urban renewal districts to minimize those impacts on other taxing districts as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that is an important feature.
I apologize for leaving that out. It was too fast for myself as well upon my return from vacation.
Okay.
I have a question now that I didn't have before. You rightly said you have to apply for the Housing Authority of the State of Oregon. You get the exemption, and it lasts for the period you've indicated, and it dissolves and it comes back in. It's a good incentive, but if it's in an urban renewal, that's a different issue, because the urban renewal, what's the life on that? Do they then get the taxes in the urban renewal for whatever period of time, so it doesn't come back onto the county roll because it's an urban renewal? And I don't know I didn't realize that. For instance, in Tigard area, usually those incentives are not within an urban renewal district. That's a very different issue.
So I now rereading my rereading, I did put that line in there, so I apologize for that. But I don't know the life of the urban renewal area within Beaverton that those particular zones are sitting. So this is a complicated overlay that I don't have that answer to. I can find that answer and provide that information to you if you'd like.
Yeah, before the next meeting, because I think what Jerry was getting at, which is an important one, does it come back on full? It does, but if it comes back on, but an urban renewal lasts for 20 or 30 years, we don't get any of the revenue. They'll come back full into the urban renewal, but the county loses. So I get the 10-year period, and I get that that it's going to come back on, but I didn't know about the urban renewal. I missed that part.
Yeah, I apologize for not highlighting that more.
Wow. So could we, if we gave you a little bit of time, like till 1 o'clock this afternoon, to go back through that with a little bit more fine tooth comb, answer some of these questions, and then can we bring that back around this afternoon? Would that be okay, Chair?
I'm happy to do the work in the meantime, and I was planning to be there at 1 o'clock anyway, so I'm happy to bring the answers back to the board if that's needed.
That would be my preference.
Any other questions, commissioners? So I'll provide my comments. Thank you very much, Ms. Doyle, for writing this memo and providing us with the background information. I appreciated how you have covered that in the past, the county has participated in these exemption programs, and I don't see any reason why we should not continue that history. So as requested, we would appreciate your being back at 1 o'clock, but thus far we have a majority of 3 that are willing to move forward at this point. but we will come back to it this afternoon. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, commissioners. Any information you'd like to share during board communication? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I'll jump in. I've had this last week, we had the impact coordinating committee meeting, and again, that meeting is really for the impact group that are the officers and the incoming officers to review what the agenda is. We are looking at presentations from providers from the various counties on the shelter siting. So that's something that's coming up. I'm working to make sure that we have a representative from Washington County in that group. I had a Central Cultural Board of Directors meeting, and it was kind of a technical meeting. It was going over some bylaws, and also we heard from the Development and Real Estate Advisory Committee. So that's a little bit different for Central Cultural. This week I have Community Action Board of Directors meeting. I have the Homeless Plan Advisory Committee, RDPO, and the Pre-Referral Steering Committee for the pre-K. And that's still looking at, I'm getting information from them about what they're looking at in terms of a referral. So that's no decisions there is what I'm trying to say here. So that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Treese. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. One of the fun things that I did last week was the sheep and goat weigh-in on Saturday morning. Again, we're getting ready for the county fair that's coming up in July. And so these 4-H kids all have responsibilities depending on what kind of an animal they're going to bring to the fair. And so it's always good. And what I think is most rewarding is to see these kids at this age, you know, obviously teenage, some younger than that, engaged with agriculture and certainly raising their animals and taking care of them. And so that's always fun, and it's good to watch the parents interact with all of that. So that was a fun part. Had my first in-person Kotek and Northwest ACT meeting last week in Astoria. And that was on Thursday, and it was a very, very rainy, wet day in Astoria and all the way there and back. But it was good to be able to see all those folks again in person, and certainly adds to the day capacity when you have to travel to those locations. But again, well worth it. Kotek reported that they had got some grant money from GPI, and then had received grant money for their own for a grant writer. It's only for a 1-year duration, so they will be looking for a grant writer to provide some services for the counties and the cities in that Kotek district. So we'll be applying for more grants and certainly have opportunities there. It's pretty exciting stuff. Forest Trust Lands also had a meeting with them, and to again go over with the Board of Forestry and with regards to the Forest Management Plan and the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, what impacts that's going to have. Obviously, that is not completely finished, but it is close, and there is, of course, nobody's happy about that. So they were talking about what the impacts are going to be on the various counties. It will have a fairly small impact on Washington County because we don't have a lot of forest lands as compared to the rest of the other counties. So I'm working with Erin Doyle on a memo, and I think she provided that memo to the chair and I. And there's some additional information I've asked her to follow up on. So I'll certainly every one of the commissioners will get that as soon as we are, as soon as that's finalized. Got a Salmonberry Trail update coming up, and a GPI board meeting, and business as usual. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willie. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. I think I'll keep the fun part going. I'll borrow Commissioner Willie's. One of the fun things that I did last week, especially today, is election day. So everybody, hopefully everyone turned in their ballots, or will do so before 8 o'clock this evening, and to make sure their voice are heard and to elect or vote for the person that they see fit and right. So keeping that narrative going. One of the fun thing I did last week was see Tina Kotek, who's running for governor, state of Oregon, to be the next governor. She did the first pitch at the Hillsborough Hops game. So I had the honor of attending that game and seeing a lot of our community members and a lot of folks who recognize me and who actually live in District 1, who I was able to chat with. And so that was fun. And I want to extend my gratitude to the Hillsborough Hops team and the players of all their great work. And it was fun being among community members and being among family. So thank you. We're heavy with the budgets as with you all. And last week I also had TV Highway Steering Committee meeting. We approved the charter and the purpose and the needs statements and goals and objectives, and had quite a bit of presentations around bus rapid transit and transit enhancements, and federal small starts grant funding. And I wasn't able to stay with the whole meeting because we had our budget meeting. So Commissioner Willie, I left that meeting, and the staff should be giving us any updates on anything that we've missed that's crucial around decision makings. So I'm hoping everything else went smooth. So I haven't heard otherwise. Last week, I had a really great meeting with Aaron Brown and Sarah Wright. They're with Oregon. Sarah was with the Oregon Environmental Council, and Aaron is a transportation and climate policy advocate who's working with a team to launch a new initiative for regional transportation investments, and that project is called Oregon Transportation Futures Project. So that was a really good conversation, and had like different ways of thinking transportation and thinking about transportation 2.0 and how do we center equity and what does equity mean. And so that was a really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to broaden that conversation to figure out how do we align some of that work and some of the investments that we're making. Yesterday I had WCCC. It was a really good meeting, short meeting as well. We ended early. And one of the big conversation, I think that our staff are coming to talk to us today, is the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project that's coming along in JPAC as an endorsement, not just to be clear. They're not asking for a vote. They're interested in endorsement, and then they'll be back eventually to talk about some of the impacts for Washington County and whatnot. So, and other than that, I agree, business as usual, and looking forward to more meetings with our constituents, and I'll have more updates around constituents and constituent town halls happening on District 1. Other than that, I turn it back to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye. Anyone else?
I'll just simply jump in with two items. One, you see my schedule. We all print those, so I've been pretty active on a number of constituent issues, but I would be remiss, I think, if I didn't call attention to Ralph Brown, I knew Ralph for a long time, and Mayor Cornelius, really a very, very good guy. And unfortunately, the down part of it, they discovered his car and him this past week. And he'd been missing. Ralph had a touch of dementia. I knew him, and Jerry probably knew him far better than I, but I knew him back in the day when, you know, he was pretty robust, and we had a number of good laughs together. So to his family, condolences, but it's a good closure, I guess, to his missing. If you can ever have a good close, I mean, finding a loved one is important. But anyway, thanks, Ralph, for all the memories and for doing a great job in Western Washington County for a number of years.
Yes, he was a wonderful man and committed to his community and a wonderful public servant with decades of experience and impact throughout Forest Grove, Cornelius, especially, but as well as Hillsborough and the Oregon Road Running Club and just many organizations that he contributed to. Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. As for myself, as Commissioner Fye noted, we're deep into budget. I'm also working on a draft review for your consideration of our Clean Water Services CEO. So that'll take a couple of more weeks of formulation. This Thursday, as the Washington County Board Representative, I've got the WCVA, Washington County Visitors Association Board of Directors meeting. Next week, the Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee meeting, the WEA Board of Directors meeting, and then the third meeting of the Transit Advisory Committee, likely of just a projected 5 meetings. So yeah, we're getting through the various budget meetings, and it's interesting to see the ebb and flow of community input along the way on budgets as well. So onward ho we go. And now we'll turn it over to leadership communication. Ms. Angie.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. First, I will start with, it is Election Day. As Commissioner Fye had earlier noted, new this year, voters now have the option of putting their ballots in an official ballot drop box by 8 p.m. tonight, or returning their ballots to the U.S. Postal Service with a postmark dated no later than today, May 17th. The Elections Office is anticipating as many as 40,000 will be processed today. That's amazing. Just during the leadership update, Marty, Assistant County Administrator Marty Kyle, is looking forward to being on site with the elections team tonight. And her quote in her message to me is, it's exciting to be part of democracy in action. So that is how important our elections process is and how serious our team takes this process. Today's actual turnout may actually be lower in the past, given this new law allowing ballots to be counted that arrive with today's postmark. So we may see lower numbers today, but as those ballots get processed, that number will is projected to increase. Results for the election will be posted just after 8 p.m. tonight through the Secretary of State's election results page. Once the initial results are released, county election staff will update the Secretary of State's office with an hourly update until midnight. Certification of the primary election must happen by June 13th. And then I wanted to also give a COVID update. We are seeing case counts across our workforce increasing. Today, our law library will actually be closed because of staffing shortages. As the board may recall, we have a small but mighty team in our law library of 3. And so I do want to support their health and well-being, as well as still providing access to our community through virtual services today. And that concludes my weekly update.
Thank you, Ms. Angie. How about you, Mr. Carr?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. It's nice to be back. I just wanted to talk, as the board knows, the Ridwell had sued the county about a month, 2 months ago, I think. The county moved to dismiss. Eamon McMahon and I had the lead on that matter. Yesterday, we received a report and recommendation from the magistrate handling the matter. The magistrate granted our motion to dismiss in most respects, but one, she upheld the county's action in the GRAC's action in denying the exemption, found that they should have challenged that in state court rather than going to federal court. The one element that, she also found that it was moot because the county had passed the temporary rule and Ridwell is actually operating. The one aspect in which the complaint withstood the motion to dismiss was the claims of violation of due process. She found the county could potentially be liable for that because it's a county rule that allows GRAC to operate in the way that it did. We will ultimately have to do some discovery, and I am confident, or I am hopeful, that we'll be able to get that dismissed as well. This is a report and recommendation from a magistrate. It goes to the district court judge next. We have an opportunity to object. I believe we will object to the part that was not dismissed. I believe the plaintiffs will object to the parts that were, and then ultimately district court will make a decision. It is, in my experience, somewhat rare for a district court to overturn a magistrate's decision, although they do it, and they do an independent review. It is a well-written and well-thought-out decision, and we'll provide a copy to the commission when we do the hot sheet on Friday. That's my report.
Thank you. Ms. Taniguchi Dennis.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and good morning, Board of Clean Water Services. We continue to be in stable operations. We do have 4 additional employees that are off-site, so we're just maintaining continuity as best we can and protecting each other. So thank you.
Thank you. Just one update to our regular business meeting agenda, and that is item 7 from the consent agenda has been pulled. So it will consist of just 20 items. Are there any questions or comments from the board with regard to today's Board of Commissioners meeting agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next topic, which is a presentation of applicants for the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council. I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Samantel.
Thank you so much, Chair Harrington. Well, good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Mira Samantel. I'm the Interim Director for Health and Human Services here with Washington County. Pleased to be before you today with Colin Fitzgerald, who is our Division Manager for Developmental Disabilities. You might recall that Colin came before your board recently on March 15th to proclaim March Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. So the timing is good for us to come back before you today to present applicants for the Advisory Council. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Colin.
Thank you, Mira. Good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. My name is Colin Fitzgerald. I'm Division Manager for the Developmental Disabilities Division and the support staff for our Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council. The DD Council is a 15-member council that serves in an advisory capacity to the Washington County Department of Health and Human Services. The council provides input on program development, planning, monitoring, and funding issues. The council meets 1 time a month at an agreed upon time. This past year, all meetings have been virtual on Zoom due to the pandemic. Members of the DD Council are recipients of service, advocates, professionals in the field, provider representatives, and family members. Positions on the council are not specified in the bylaws, but current council members are focused on building a council that includes a diverse and broad representation reflective of our Washington County community. A priority of the council this year is to raise awareness to key issues impacting the intellectual and developmental disabilities community. A few examples of those key issues include ensuring adequate funding to the local developmental disabilities programs, finding affordable housing for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and a continued emphasis on employment. For this recruitment period, we had 8 vacancies with 8 applicants. 5 of our applicants are seeking reappointment. with 3 new applicants being recommended for first-time appointment. We have invited all applicants to recent council meetings. The HHS department recommends the reappointments of Dan Pecha, Angela Braddock, Lisa Lighthouser, Beth McShane, and Susan Nolte, and recommends the new appointments of Lucia Benavides, Jenny Cisneros, and Stephanie Rose to the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council. I've put together a brief summary of each candidate, beginning with our new applicants seeking first-time appointment. Lucia Benavides is the first of our new applicants. Lucia is a mother of 2 children with developmental disabilities and is a certified community health worker and advocate for people experiencing intellectual and developmental disabilities in Washington County. Lucia also serves on the Adelante Mujeres Health Equity Team and is president of the Hillsborough School District's Latinx Special Education Committee. Lucia understands the barriers of families who speak languages other than English must overcome to obtain services for their children. Lucia meets monthly with a group of Spanish-speaking families to help connect them with needed resources in Washington County. Jenny Cisneros is our second new applicant. Jenny is a mother of 2 girls with developmental disabilities and is a founder and executive director of the Peruvian Cultural Festival in Portland. Jenny is also certified by Oregon Care Partners, providing training to families and professional caregivers. Jenny would like to join the council to provide advocacy for those that are unable to advocate for themselves and focus on equity in the developmental disabilities service system. Stephanie Rose is a third new applicant. Stephanie is a homeless outreach coordinator in Forest Grove and volunteers at Centro Cultural's Food Access Program in Cornelius. She previously worked with the Northwest Education Service District and was a fundraising coordinator for the Cesar E. Chavez Foundation. Stephanie would like to join the council because she has a family member experiencing an intellectual disability and would like to further her advocacy work for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Washington County. Dan Pecha is one of 5 applicants seeking reappointment to the DD Advisory Council. Dan is the Executive Director of Self-Determination Resources in Beaverton, which provides case management services and supports to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Washington County. Dan has worked for over 30 years in the field and provides valuable insight to the council. Dan would like to continue with the council for another term to ensure people with developmental disabilities receive appropriate quality services in Washington County. Angela Braddock is a parent of a child with a developmental disability and provides advocacy to her daughter and other individuals who do not have a support system. Angela also volunteers with the Washington County Sheriff's Office Elder Safe program and serves on the board for self-determination resources in Beaverton. Angela would like to continue with the council to provide feedback to the DD division regarding service delivery and to network with others to share her experiences and improve the service system. Lisa Lighthouser is a parent of an adult that experiences developmental disabilities. Lisa provides information to families regarding disability rights, community transition services, housing, Social Security, and employment for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Lisa would like to serve another term on the council to further her advocacy work and connect people to needed resources in Washington County. Beth McShane is applying for her second term on the council. Beth is a mother of an individual that experiences developmental disabilities. She is the executive director of the Miss Oregon Scholarship Foundation, is a former executive director of the Northwest Autism Foundation. Beth would like to be appointed to another term as she is interested in overseeing and advising on all aspects of funding for developmental disability services in Washington County. Susan Nolte is also applying for a second term on the council. Susan has a family member that experiences developmental disabilities and also has mental health support needs. Susan volunteers for the National Alliance on Mental Illness and is, as a retired veterinarian, volunteers at the Audubon Society in Portland. Susan would like to serve another term on the council to provide input on systems change and to continue her advocacy for inclusion of people with developmental disabilities and mental illness in our community. Thank you for the opportunity to present our candidates for the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council. As a staff member that has supported our council since 2016, I'm very excited about our new applicants and the perspectives that they will bring to the council. They've already contributed in a meaningful way, and if appointed, will provide the council and our division valuable insight over the course of their terms. I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Are you thumbs up? Great. I see 4 thumbs. I also am looking forward to approving this slate. Ordinarily, you've heard me in the past talk about being a bit uncomfortable about the length of tenure that some community members have on different committees. But I find with both the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council as well as the Behavioral Health Council that the number of individuals that serve on these councils provides for a great deal of diversity in terms of the tenure. But also each of these councils have family representatives, particularly parents. And one thing as a non-parent that, but an aunt to 11, I certainly appreciate is that once you become a parent, it is a one-way trip. You are always a parent, and your children all through their life stages are just a part of you and a part of your mind and your heart. And so I really appreciate these parents who continue to offer their thoughts, their concerns, and their experience to shaping the information that the department develops to then follow through in bringing to the board for our consideration or through their program implementation. So I too am totally thumbs up. So thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald and Ms. Samantel, for your continued great work on behalf of our community.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you again, at least in the participants list on June 7th when we take action on this slate.
Thank you very much, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. Have a good morning.
Thank you. So we're a little ahead of schedule. So at this juncture, unless anyone has anything, we will take a pause in our work session and then reconvene our work session at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Anything else from anyone? All righty, we'll see you at our board meeting at 10 o'clock on a different Zoom link. Thank you.